Hey, Leo Dreger here. Today we're going to talk about digital evidence. And that could mean just about anything in today's world. So we got to start somewhere. So first, let's look at the definition of digital evidence. I encourage you to search for multiple definitions of digital evidence. I kind of have my own term, which is realistically something that's digital that's going to make its way to court, okay? That realistically could be anything. I'm sure there's a formal definition out there, but that's okay. Okay, so we're going to look at some of the characteristics here in a second, but first let's look at some of the types and factors with regards to digital evidence, okay? First of all, there's anti-digital evidence and anti-digital forensics, okay? And this has to deal with things that, like, for example, wipe drive and any program to zeroize or overlay data on top of other data in an attempt to obfuscate it or hide it or manipulate it or destroy it, okay? So that's always a challenge in the world of what we do, because when we're trying to find digital evidence, someone else could also be trying to unhide it. Okay, so some of the factors that go into this are basically volatile versus non-volatile. Okay, so you need to know the definitions of volatile versus non-volatile. Transient data, or the types of data that stays in memory until you reboot. Fragile data, in other words, things that can be overwritten quite quickly, or temporary type data, or temporary data in itself. Archive data, right? Backup data and things like that, right? So we're going to look at the scope of this, especially through the lens of all of the federal rules of evidence, because remember, we know the definition here is digital evidence, okay? We don't have evidence if we can't get it into court. So there's always going to be the legal factor of this, right? So we're going to have to look at the federal rules of evidence and look at everything from Rule 104 all the way down to the end, which I have listed here is 1004. Okay. Also, we can look at the International Organization of Computer Evidence, IOCE, and FBI.gov as well, and see their take on this. The big picture of digital evidence in the examination process is we have to assess the evidence, we have to acquire it, we have to preserve it, examine it, and then ultimately document and report. So we've said that a few times in the introduction part of this course, but what we're going to do is we're going to take a much closer look at some of the details of what that looks like step by step, all right? And then we'll wrap up here with all sorts of electronic devices. And this is when I say, hey, digital evidence, what does that realistically mean? It can be vast. It can vary a lot. There's many things that you would unconventionally not consider evidence that you now have to be an expert in, okay? So some of the easiest things that you were likely to have expertise in is basically computers and computer systems, okay? Because you're going to look for user-created or user-protected information, or computer-created or computer-protected information. And that's kind of like our natural instincts with the subject of forensics. However, we'll look at all of the different types of storage devices, access control devices like biometrics and things like that. Even something as simple as an answering machine. If it can store digital media, even answering machine tapes, for example. Digital cameras, okay, handheld devices, networking devices, removable storage, all sorts of different types of scanners and copiers. Credit card skimmers, they've become very, very popular in the world of fraud in the last couple of years. Maybe something as simple as a digital watch or a fax machine or a GPS, right? So there really is no limit to where evidence can reside. Again, digital evidence. Digital selects some sort of electronic means. Evidence suggests that we actually have to go get this into court. So everything from the federal rules and the regulations and the international rules as well, all the way through the actual types. We're going to cover that all in the next section.